What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name is Michael Roman, aka All Fires Now. From an industry insider and Twitter scoopster source we've been confidently covering here at the channel for the last 5 or so years, who does have a proven track record, we are getting a brand new description of Dr. Doom and his whole modus operandi during the film Avengers Doomsday. And while I think it's pretty clear how we can connect the dots to what we've heard about the plot, one thing remains in question. If he's so cunning and manipulative, how is he going to convince everybody he's a good guy if we know he's already kidnapped Franklin Richards? Well, we're going to break that all down, what we think his ultimate goal is, and it's not to bring everyone to his side and convince them he's a good guy. He's only got to swing one person, and we're going to talk about who that is to get everybody else to fall in line. We're breaking it all down, this latest description of Dr. Doom in Avengers Doomsday. But first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel. That's all we do. If you're into that kind of thing, hit the sub button, leave a comment down below. That will automatically enter you for all of our giveaways. If you want, stick around to the end of the video. We get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so this latest leaked description is coming from the Twitter scoopster and industry insider Cryptic HD Quality. You guys can follow him over on Twitter under the handle Cryptic4kQual. He's been a scooper in the game since pretty much the Multiverse Saga started, maybe even a little bit before. And again, like I said, while no scooper has gotten everything right, he does have a proven track record, so take that as you will. His new description says this: Doom plays the role of a wolf in sheep's clothing, introduced as someone with seemingly noble intentions, but beneath the surface has ulterior motives. Pragmatic and calculating, he manipulates as well. Now, this is in line with the description of Dr. Doom we've been hearing from several plot leaks and basically the entire year, that there are going to be those who believe in what Doom is trying to accomplish, basically his quote-unquote followers, and then some that may be distrusting from the beginning, but basically he's going to be able to manipulate those around him. And really, it comes down to the fact that he looks like Tony Stark. That's the whole crux of it. A trusted face amongst those he may need to recruit. But as we've pointed out, if you look at both iterations of the Avengers right now in the 616, both the Avengers led presumably by Sam Wilson and the new Avengers that are co-headed by both Bucky Barnes and Yelena Belova, Bucky and Sam have absolutely zero reason to align themselves with a Dr. Doom that happens to look like Tony Stark. Think about their troubled past with Tony Stark, where it left off at the end of Civil War, and even though Tony would have been involved with the Avengers and during Avengers Endgame, they're snapped back only to immediately after have Tony Stark die at the end of that battle. So unless a major reconciliation went down and off screen, Bucky and Sam, they would have no reason to trust someone named Dr. Doom who happens to look like Tony Stark. And looking like Tony Stark wouldn't have too much of an impact on either of them to just come around and be like, yes, this is our savior, this is who we should follow. But one person that both Bucky and Sam would follow unequivocally is Steve Rogers. And so where we've heard that Dr. Doom may quote-unquote go after Steve Rogers, I think the entire time the guise of Tony Stark on Dr. Doom's face is to help persuade Steve Rogers to join his side, so that when he shows up in the 616 with Steve Rogers on his side, it would be very easy for Sam and Bucky to buy into what Steve is saying and join him as well. So his manipulation is going to start from the very beginning. Now, going one step past that, and as I mentioned during the prologue, none of this makes sense to me though if the Fantastic Four is showing up at the end of the post-credit scene for the Thunderbolts. Presumably after Dr. Doom has absconded with their son and Franklin Richards, they're probably going to tell them who Dr. Doom is unless they don't know, although we think there's an established history there based on the Latveria scene during Fantastic Four, topic for separate videos, it's been covered at length. Still, we would assume the Fantastic Four would show up and say, oh, by the way, there's this other guy named Dr. Doom, he kidnapped our son, don't trust him. But the truth is that when you have multiverse incursions going down across timelines, and as we've heard in Avengers Doomsday, a literal doomsday clock that is ticking down to the destruction of all existence, if you had someone who was super smart and super capable like Dr. Doom show up and present a logical reason why he wanted to fix X, Y, and Z in order to save the whole multiverse, well, you might be tempted to buy in. Now, I don't see Dr. Doom aligning with the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and X-Men. Basically manipulating all of them to fight each other would rather be his MO, so they're not paying attention to him and what he's ultimately trying to accomplish. But he may be the one who's trying to lead them all to Loki, or rather have them lead him to Loki. by simply explaining that for any chance for the multiverse and thusly any of them to survive, they need to get to Loki. And when they finally get there, the whole plan all along was for him to kill Loki and take his position on the throne at the center of the multiverse in order to recraft Battleworld. Now, that is an oversimplification, I think, of a lot of what's going on, but it explains how Dr. Doom is going to be able to manipulate others. It won't just be because he looks like Tony Stark. It'll be Tony Stark manipulating Steve Rogers, who will easily bring in line the two versions of the Avengers and the 616. And even if the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, aren't necessarily willing to go along with it, you have to imagine of all of those characters, they're unknown to Sam Wilson and Bucky. They don't know the Fantastic Four. They don't know the X-Men. Monica Rambeau can vouch for the X-Men since she's been in the 10,005, but it probably won't be enough for them to not side with Steve Rogers, who presumably is going to immediately fall in line with a Dr. Doom that presents as Tony Stark, especially a Tony Stark who had just sacrificed himself at the end of Avengers Endgame, where we're hearing we're going to pick up with that version of Steve Rogers after he's just returned the Infinity Stones and living out his life with Peggy Carter. That sacrifice will be very fresh to Steve Rogers. A lot of time has passed, yes, but in the whole grand scheme of multiverse and time travel, it may be something fresh on Steve Rogers' mind and heart, meaning Tony walks through the door seemingly very soon proximity after he sacrifices himself. There's going to be some guilt and heartstrings there pulled on too. So where Steve Rogers may have been able to see right through Dr. Doom like others may, and during the film, when you add on the urgency of the multiverse collapsing and then the recency of Tony Stark's sacrifice to this Steve Rogers being recruited by a now Tony Stark lookalike, pretty easy to see from there how Dr. Doom would be able to convince Steve Rogers almost immediately to follow him, and then like dominoes, the rest of the Avengers fall in line. Now, one thing I will say as my final thought is this. You guys know in the highs and lows, I'm always optimistic, and ultimately I'm a fan first. I've never had a problem calling out something that I thought was less than or lesser quality, and even though I've liked certain TV shows, Secret Invasion was absolute trash. I said so the entire time, and even though I liked parts of She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel, there were also a lot of episodes throughout Disney Plus that simply didn't work, and I had no problem calling them out. However, I will never go into anything with a negative mindset, especially not this. Robert Downey Jr., the Russos, everybody's earned the benefit of the doubt. I am so excited to see Avengers Doomsday. However, I am super curious as to the portrayal of Dr. Doom that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be able to deliver. And so when we hear updates like this in a leaked description of Robert Downey Jr., I get optimistic because that's the Dr. Doom I know and love. Calculating, sinister, manipulative, full of ego. There is a lot that Robert Downey Jr. can do with that character, things he did well with Tony Stark that overlap in a Venn diagram for their expression of the character. But Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom are nowhere near the same character. And knowing that already Robert Downey Jr. nailed Tony Stark, I don't know whether to be more enthused that he's taking on a different character, and again, more sure that he can handle it, or just scared that parts of his Tony Stark portrayal are going to bleed into Victor Von Doom and that it might not be on point. But I refuse to be down about it or talk negatively about it before it happens. I can't wait to see the trailer. We should get a good glimpse at him then, and hearing his voice and seeing some of the delivery. And then again, I won't doubt it until we get to the movie, which happens to be a year away. Wow. Guys, let me know all your thoughts down below. That's a long way. It feels like it's right around the corner, but really we still have over a year till this movie comes out. Let me know all your thoughts down below about any and all of this. If you agree, I'm all ears. Quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff. Still doing a ton of giveaways. We're going to amp it up throughout the holiday season, starting next week with Thanksgiving and going through December. All you got to do is be a sub, leave a comment. Best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. And as always, if you like today's video, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. My name is Michael Roman. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. Find me on all other platforms with original music under the name All Fires. And while I would sincerely appreciate you checking my music out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.
They all sit back and watch